Welcome, gents, to another episode of Fit Beyond 40. As I said, we're trying to get a broad range of people on here who are over 40, 50, 60, etc. Talk about what they do now, what they've done in their past, fitness and health-wise, and how we can take inspiration and motivation for that. So today, I've got Greg with me, so thank you very much for coming, Greg.
Cheers, thanks.
By the way, I've got a mirror there.
Yeah,
Because everyone I've had, it's usually my old gym, everyone I've had on the podcast has always spent a lot of time. I need them to swap seats. I need them to stop looking over there. So I need to get a blackout blind to come
nice in that
So yeah, thank you very much for coming in, Greg. So tell us a bit about yourself and how old you are to begin with.
My name's Greg. I'm 51 now. Played sport all my life, really, from a young kid. Football under sevens, athletics.
It's going back away, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going back a long way.
I don't know if we got all that time.
Yeah, and then did that, and then so football was my main thing at school, and just general athletics. I suppose I was a good sprinter.
Okay.
Sort of like bar sprinted. Yeah, sort of. Didn't get to the southeast things, but sprinted
at a competitive level.
Yeah. And at Hounslow Athletics Club, etc. Played football, eyes with Colts, people like that, and then from then started boxing when I was about 17.
Okay.
And then boxed.
How did you fall into that?
Honestly, I was knocking about with a load of geezers that everyone was sort of a bit scared of.
Okay.
I suppose what they call roadmen now. Hanging about with all them lot from college. And then I was like, I don't even know if I haven't had a fight since junior school.
Yeah.
I don't think I had any fights at senior school. So at junior school, last time, and I was thinking, like, all these people I don't even know if I can have about. So I literally went along. I think with boxing, I'll go off a little bit, but a lot of people that box as a kid box because of their dad or somebody in their family.
Yeah, you did mention that before.
And they do it because their dad wants them to do it, and everyone wants to, please their father. And so they a lot of people, I think, box because of that. And then whether they stay with it later on is different. And I think you'll see a lot of people that box as a kid don't actually box as a senior.
Okay.
Or if they do, they give up in their 20s.
Yeah.
And life takes over. Whereas for me, I started at 17, but I had my last fight at 44. So everything to do with boxing I did because I really enjoyed it for myself.
Yeah.
I went along Kingston Boxing Club on the Cambridge estate, and
Is that still around?
I think it still is. I think it is. It's had loads of people come through there. You've had a few Cornelius Carr and people like that back in the day who were pros. I went there. Funny enough, I went with a geezer who was a bit of a bodybuilder bloke at the time, and he was sort of a large character. I was always smaller. I probably weighed about 10 stone when I was 17, 18. And he was a couple of stone heavier than me. I think he was probably on the juice. And then we went and we sparred, and we ended up sparring. And actually, I had the better of him. And
he didn't like that.
It was, and it was good confidence for me, and a bit of a thing to change there. And then he stopped bringing his gum shield and stopped coming boxing.
Yeah.
And then I sparred another geezer there. And I wasn't very good, but I was always determined. I had good determination.
Had a good attitude.
Yeah. And and then I started to really, I thought, actually, I quite enjoy this. Yeah. And then went from there. That club closed down for a while, moved to a couple of different clubs, boxing clubs, and just loved it. Had my first fight after I think we trained for about a year. Left Kingston, went to Putney, had my first bout at Putney.
How was that?
Really nervous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Fought a lad from Balham. We fought at Balham Town Hall, and the geezer was from Balham. I lost a split decision. I watched the video back.
How many times?
Yeah, a lot. Listen, it was one of them ones, like I say, I won the first round. Second round, he probably won. And then the third round, you could have given it either way. But yeah, really nervous. Then I actually lost my next fight as well. I fought short notice fight. I went to what's the big hotel up London? Not Cafe Royal, the other one.
Not talking about Clapham Ground, though.
No, in London by Park Lane. What's the one right next to Park Lane? Anyway, in there, and I lost there. But I later found out the bloke had 48 fights. And it's my second ever fight, and basically it was a dinner show, and obviously the bloke he was supposed to fight didn't turn up. Now looking back, I had a Putney boxing. You wear a vest with the colours on.
Right.
And they said, oh, can you wear this vest instead? Took it off and it said Southeast Division.
Okay.
So supposedly I was Southwest, sorry. I was supposed to be the Southwest Division champion. So that bloke obviously hadn't turned up. I put the thing on, I think we were 67 kilos. And then the other lad, he said Southeast Division. So he's obviously Southeast Division.
Yeah, it's Southeast first.
I can still remember his name, David Baptiste. And he stopped me. I didn't go down. He didn't knock me out or anything. But it got stopped at the end of the first. And I was absolutely mortified. Went to a new club, Hanwell, because again Putney closed down. All the boxing clubs were closing down then in the 90s. It was all like it was bad for your brain. Everything was being closed down. Went to there, and then they looked at my card.
I remember Hanwell actually.
Yeah,
I remember
Cuckoo Lane. Walking up the steps.
Yeah. Or walking down them when you're about to go down. It's going to be sick outside.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, went there. And that was good there, and they were like, "Oh, you look all right." Blah blah blah. Looked at my card and I went, "Oh, you fought Baptiste." Omar fought him. Omar's had 98 fights. He was semi-finalist of the ABAs last year. I was like, "What?" And that David Baptiste turned pro. I think he won his first 5. So yeah, then I was like, "Okay, that ain't so bad." And then after that, I had a draw, and then after that, I only had 10 fights in the end, but I've never lost since then.
Okay,
so,
brilliant.
Won the other one.
That's really good attitude-wise, because I think a lot of people would have been put off maybe the first or 2 loss, because there's nowhere to hide in boxing, is there?
No.
It's not like other sports, football, rugby, etc., where if you have a bad game, you can still be on the winning side.
Totally, yeah.
It's a very different to a team sport. You've literally got nowhere to hide. All eyes are just on you and your opponent.
Yeah, and like what you say about training, I think exactly that. You know, if you've not made weight, or if you've been drinking, or if you've cut that run short, and especially I notice now with social media, people can check, oh, they ran this in this time. It doesn't matter if you haven't. It will show in the ring. If you're not fit enough, it will show. Yeah. You can make yourself look as fit as you like, and like, I do this and do that and do this. If you don't actually go and do it in boxing, you're going to get found out
straight away.
100%. So, yeah, 100%. I mean, boxing was brilliant for that, because you had to keep your weight down to make weight. So you had to be strict with your diet. It stops you from boozing as much. And for me, when you went for those runs, you push yourself. Even if you're on your own, you would push yourself. And for me, in life, it's facing your fears, isn't it? So
100%,
I used to get so nervous before boxing. And do you know what? I weren't nervous about being punched in the face. That didn't bother me, because you've done hundreds and hundreds of rounds, probably thousands now, rounds of sparring at different clubs. So I wasn't bothered about being punched in the face. I was always bothered about what people would think of me.
Yeah.
So if I got knocked out in the first 10 seconds or something, like, what's everyone's going to think? All that hard work and training, and then people won't respect me. They'll just think, oh, it's like, what, you're rubbish anyway. So that was always my focus, my drive. Yeah.
Ain't it weird how we, as youngsters, we always want to be accepted at school, we want friends, we want all that. And even as we get older, we still hold sometimes in high regard what people think. Even those same people wouldn't go through that. You wouldn't see a lot of them putting themselves out and going to the ring.
No.
But they're quickly to criticise you or someone else for doing something that you want to do.
And that took me quite a while. You're right, again, it took me quite a while to understand that, because I remember fighting the second fight I had when I lost, and I was like devastated. I was like, oh. And then my close mates, we was in the pub the next day, all taking the piss out of me, blah, giving me banter, and it hurt. And I remember thinking, all that effort I put in, and I lost the night. They all my close mates are taking the piss. But then when you speak to people later on, and you sort of all grow up a bit. Mind you, I was like 20 then.
Yeah. Also, the emotion dies down.
Yeah.
After the night, it can still be very emotive for you.
Yes.
Very emotive for them as well. There's a lot of feelings still flowing about. I think when you look back in retrospect, you can probably analyse it and think a bit different.
And then other people said to us, look, I wouldn't have the balls to get in there. Or, and then it started to twig. Boxing's a good sport. For me as well, you did earn respect. I mean, I was doing it to prove something to myself, not to anyone else. But later on, people do have a sort of respect for you. I mean, it's a little bit like the fire brigade was when we first joined it. People would have that natural respect for you, like, you're being brave, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it's the same with boxing. I think exactly for that same reason you just said. A lot of people like the idea of doing it, but they actually haven't got the thing to get in there and do it. So I think it's a great sport for that, and more just for proving something to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you definitely had the right attitude to go along with it as well. I think that helps as well, because you can get the most out of it.
Yeah, I think like for me, I wasn't naturally good at it. No one in my family pushed me, but I always had good determination. Even my little certificates at school, we said it was always cheerful determination to do well. He's a determined kid, and that I think is the one thing that I have. I've always, give it my best shot, sort of thing. So yeah.
So would you say during that, because you said your last fight was 44, wasn't it?
Yes.
So would you say during that period, most of your training, say 89% of your training, was sport specific? Would it be fair to say that, or because you were still playing football at the time as well?
Yes, I was. Again, like I say, with boxing, it was amateur boxing of no high level, but like it was amateur boxing. And the same with the football. It was just grassroots football sort of thing. So, but it was your own thing. So it motivated me, and I suppose for the boxing definitely. I suppose with the boxing that changed my diet more. With football, it was you'd still
get away if you get quite a lot.
And listen, if all my mates out, they'll be like, Jesus, she was out every Saturday drinking and boozing, which I was. Do you know what I mean? So it was only when I knew I had a fight, and like I said, I only had 10 fights over a period of like 20 odd years, 25 years, whatever, which is mad, really. And if I could change anything, I would have done it. I would have had a lot more fights in a shorter space of time.
Earlier?
I would have done it. I would have definitely done it earlier, sort of 20 to 25, and taken it a bit more seriously for those 5 years and giving it 100%. Whereas I was still going out all the time, and it was just a hobby. It's something I really enjoyed doing. I actually really enjoyed boxing, watching it, talking about it, doing it. I love the sparring. I love the training. So it was a hobby rather than me thinking, well, I'm going to try and make it as a boxer. I never really thought. I just enjoyed doing it.
Did you? Sorry to interrupt. Did you? Obviously, because you had no family members who were boxers, did you? You didn't.
What's that?
Did you say you had no family members?
No.
Who were boxers? So you enjoyed that of your own self.
Totally.
Any inspiration from films? Only because I'm looking at your age. I'm looking at the films that were out at that sort of time.
Do you know what? So, like I say, I'll state it was just to prove something to myself.
To yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And at the time, boxing, you had karate and judo and stuff like that. I'd done karate when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So the boxing just, and I suppose you are influenced by things, there's the old Rocky films and all that was around. But I just sort of got into boxing from there, and then through that bit I got really into it, like Raging Bull's my favourite film, Jake LaMotta story, and then, loved it. And then a lot of people around you and your friends, and then obviously you're with other people who are into boxing, and that all
kind of feed off each other, don't you?
Exactly.
I mean, we were quite lucky at a time, if you look back in the 80s and the 90s, the films, had some really good male-dominating character films, didn't you? You had the Bruce Lee was massive. I remember watching a lot of Bruce Lee films as I grew up. Rockies were there. The A-Team, if you like. All that kind of masculine kind of films that were out there to kind of, influence you, possibly inspire people into what they do. Don't seem to kind of have that now, do we? You don't really kind of see them sort of sporting, kind of inspirational.
I think there's almost too much now. Like I flick on Netflix or whatever, and I watch sport documentaries loads.
Do you think they're all a bit? As in, what I meant was that those old films were quite raw, so you could kind of see yourself doing it. Like now, the bigger productions, the sleek movies, does it all seem a bit kind of disconnected from reality?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it probably does. Yeah. Like I say, for me, it was my own personal thing to prove something to myself, and then I've just generally really fell in love with books. And I think, again, like I think I said earlier, a lot of people did it as kids they were trying to prove something, and then you watch as an adult, they don't do it.
They just dwindled off.
And I think the good thing why I've lasted till 44 and still up for doing it. In fact, I said I was going to have my last fight at 50, but that hasn't happened.
Cool.
And now I'm like, and a bit of that is because I don't want to see me lose and not do myself justice. Okay. You know what I mean? And you do slow down. Obviously, after 40, this is what we're going to talk about. But you do slow down, and your body does slow down, and it's no matter what. I watched a video of me playing football 2 years ago. I just played for East Fulham, and we had a reunion, and someone filmed it. And I've sort of thought I used to be a fast runner, so it really helped for football. And 100 metres, like I say, I raced at Barnet Copthall for Middlesex, so I was at the decent level 100 metre runner. And I thought I burst down the wing, sprinting with the ball, and some 18-year-old kid come back, tackled me, won the ball. I was like, and I watched the video, and I run like an old man now. And I was like, Jesus.
It's weird seeing yourself back, isn't it?
100%. And that's when I realised I haven't got that speed anymore, and I am getting old. Yeah. And even with the boxing, shadow box now, I still shadow box every day, try and do 3 rounds of shadow boxing every single day. my wrists are knackered with arthritis in both of them, especially my right wrist. So even hitting the bag hurts. I have to strap my hands up now. But I do shadow every day. And I've got like a little routine that I do, which is something I keep trying to do.
We'll go through that in a minute. So you've got 2 children as well, haven't you? You've got 2 kids.
I've actually got 3 kids. Okay. Yeah, I've got an older daughter that's 19, who unfortunately I don't see anymore. I haven't seen her since she was 2. Well, I have, but long story short. But yeah, I've got 2, 15 and 13.
Okay. So how old were you when you had your first? Save me doing the maths.
31 when Araya was born. Yeah, 31 when Araya was born.
How did that impact your fitness, your training, your eating? How did that kind of work? It's coming into your 30s now.
Yeah, so not too bad. I was still. I mean, I look back when the 2, Leon, my 15-year-old, and Lois were born. I remember Leon especially, like, he didn't sleep at night. So I remember I had a fight coming up, and just was working night shifts, fire brigade, busy in them days. Coming off nights. I used to run at work, so I'd get up every morning, 20 to 7 the bells go. I'd get up, I'd get my cup of tea, drink some water, go down into the gym and go on the running machine and do sprints.
Okay.
Do sprints every single morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, come back upstairs, then everyone will wake up, have 2 toes, bosh. I'd go up and do that, and I'd do that every single day, no matter how busy the night shift is, how tired I was. One thing I've noticed now, in my 50s, I really struggle when we have a busy night. In the mornings, I just can't train.
The lack of sleep?
Yes. Yeah. I want to eat crap food, which I fast every morning, so I want to eat food, and that's hard. And I definitely wouldn't be able to put the intensity. I think that's the one thing that I've noticed as we've got older, my intensity of training's gone. When I was in my 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, when I trained with intensity. I was nearly always sweating. Even if I did weights, I would sort of... It would be one to the other, into pull-ups, I'll be sweating.
Yeah,
now it's a lot. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that did that. I remember, and I look back now and I think, and I was part-timing.
Yeah.
I was working, so I was coming off fire brigade training, then going off working all day, coming back, then going to boxing in the evening.
And still fitting a family in.
And so I look back and I think, God, how did I do that?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of parents sometimes, some of you out there, can see the kids as a hindrance sometimes. And in the early stages, especially when they're not sleeping and not into routine, it is quite difficult to manage. And I think sometimes you have... It's a selfless act having the babies, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you kind of got to stop putting yourself first and maybe put the baby and put the mother first, etc. You drop down the pecking order a little bit, but that's not forever, and it's not for a long period of time. That will come back. So you kind of manage your fitness and your food around that time. So did you find? I always think it's really important for the kids to see you active. Maybe as a baby they don't understand, but going through a toddler, going through them years when they're just like a sponge, it's really important for them to see that being active and doing stuff is a part of every day. It's not a special event that we all go out to the park. We're in the garden, we're outside, dad's hitting the bag, dad's gone boxing, dad's gone football. Did you involve your kids as much as they could? Did they witness you doing that kind of stuff?
I think, yeah, exactly. I mean, both my kids are are both really sporty. My boy plays rugby, he's at London Ice in the academy, plays football. I mean, he does sport all the time. He's good at athletics. He went to Tiatsu, Tony Newman's gym in Hamworth there. He was doing that and he was decent at that. And my daughter, she plays football, she's good at athletics, all that. And yeah, I hugely think that's why. Yeah. So I remember, like, when he was really little, 2 or 3, because in the garage I got a bag up and a mirror and skip, and I would do that all the time. So pretty much 5 days out of 7, I would skip, hit the bag, shadow, and he would come in, and I remember, like, with the old plastic things hitting me on my stomach because I was doing sit-ups. And I hugely think, people go, oh, Mayweather, like, his dad and his brother, it's in the blood. It's not in the blood. It's not capable of it to be in the blood. But what it is, exactly what you said, you're a human sponge. And when they're little, even when they're 6 months old, a year old, you're soaking in so much. So they're watching their dad hit a bag. They're watching. So even the body movements, the shapes, the way you punch, the feet, they're taking all in. It's like footballers' sons. It's the same. They're surrounded. They're immersed in it from a young age.
You're in that environment.
And they're picking it all up. And that's why you look at all the boxers, whether it's Kawasaki, Mayweather, Roy Joe, they're all there influenced by their family. And it's not in the blood. It's just that from day dot, they've been surrounded by it. So they're taking it in. They're taking in the show. They're learning at that young age. So yeah, I hugely think that's a massive part of why both my kids are really sporty now, is because they were around.
Yeah.
And then later on, I think when I had my last fight at 44, they were 7 and 8 or 8 and 9, something like that. They came along, I remember, and they watched me spar, which I was a bit nervous about because I thought, don't want to get beaten up in front of your kids. That's probably any man's shame, isn't it, to get beaten up in front of your kids. So, like, for me, that was good. They watched me spar. Lucky I've done all right. So they watched me sparring and training. So, again, they were influenced by it. And like I say, my boy, he was always in there boxing, hitting the bag and everything else. And my daughter, I've got some great video footage of both of them hitting the pads, and she's actually quite good as well. She's got good time and good coordination, and actually probably a quicker learner. So that was really good. So yeah, a huge part, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think it is really. I can't overemphasize that enough. I think they are unconditionally your biggest fans. Mm-hmm. They they don't care if you've had a bad day at work. They don't care if you've got any money. They're not. They will see you, at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
You are the Superman, if you like.
Yeah.
And I get that. You don't want to see them. You don't want them to see you get beat. But I think even if they saw that, you'll be showing them lessons of actually, if you want something, you go and get it. I went there and I tried my best. You saw Daddy train, and like giving them that, like taking away the fear that they can try everything. They can try everything. Do you know what I mean? But I know how we would feel. We always like it's a pride thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So with your that's really good to hear, by the way, because I try and the kids see me being active all the time.
Yeah,
she comes in and does pull-ups and stuff, and I think it's really good because even missing
it will influence him, and stuff that you do in that, they reckon, don't they, between 0 and 7 is stuff that will stay with you forever.
Yeah.
So those we clean our teeth in the morning. Why? Because our parents told us from 0 to 7, clean your teeth, clean your teeth. So it's ingrained. Do you know what I mean? And like I think that is the most important age. And if I could go back and change anything, I think sporting wise, everything for my kids. There's not a lot, and another thing, we did loads of sports. I did, from when they were really little, we were doing every kind of sport.
Okay.
And I think it shows now, where both my kids have got that sort of natural hand-eye coordination, they're both sporty, they can both turn their head. I made sure both my kids could swim as soon as possible. They were both in swimming lessons at 6 months old, and they could both swim by the time they were like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So all that type of thing is huge, and my missus not so much. She's not into sport, but I had a huge influence, and it was good spending loads of time with them doing that stuff.
Well, you kind of tick 2 boxes, don't you? Not only are you being active, you want to be active in the way you want to be when you've got young kids, because you might have to skip the gym or do something else. But there's loads of stuff you can do. Nowadays you've got soft play, you've got outside, you've got the park, you can on the floor wrestling with them, messing about with them. But all that, not only you being active, but you also bonding.
100%.
That kind of influence that has on them later, without them even knowing.
Well, they say as well, don't they, about contact. So physical contact. So you look at, say, I don't know, tennis and rugby, like both sports, both, you've got to be fit for, and there's a skill level. But where you compete physically against another person, same like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, when you physically rolling around and having that battle, closer bonds are formed. Okay. So, and the same with rugby, whereas tennis, they're not going to be close.
You've got distance
because there's a massive distance. There's no physical skin on skin, and they've showed that to be a human. Maybe it's a deep psyche thing from before in the caveman. I don't know, but there's a thing about the physicalness of people touching.
Makes sense when you think about it, doesn't it?
Well, like a hug. People go on about a hug.
Yeah.
The reason a hug works is because they found out now when 2 people are together, if you're together for more than 20 seconds in a hug,
right,
the person's heart rate is the highest, will drop down to whoever's the lowest at the turn.
Oh, okay. So
that's why a hug actually does it
as a physiological
effect.
Yes.
Your 20 seconds, they reckon, it has to be for 20 seconds or more, and then it will drop down to whoever's got the lowest heart rate. So that's why someone goes, give me a hug. There's an actual physical
keep
thing
them there for 20 seconds.
Don't let them go.
Don't let them go.
But so all that stuff, and again, I think physicality, when you share that battle with somebody, I think it does do something.
No, I know there's a lot of dads out there who are struggling to get fit, especially after COVID, because they've got the financial rewards because they're probably getting paid quite a bit, stay at home or work isolated at a desk. But then obviously they're coming home, they're knackered, they don't have that physical bonding with their children. But just even 15, 20 minutes wrestling on the floor or getting in the garden, and you've got to take them for a walk. Trust me, the kids, I don't know if you found this, but as soon as you take them out of the house, their mood changes.
Totally.
We're not meant to be cooped up. And I actually saw it's actually on my phone, so I can't grab it because the phone's recording over there. I saw a stat yesterday about prisoners actually get more time out of their cell and outdoors than the average child does now. Yeah. Which is insane. So the average, because of screen time, and obviously the invention of technology, screen time has changed how kids are entertained and how they play. So that stat just shocked me straight away. I was like, how can someone, as a punishment, prison, get more outdoor time than one of your offspring?
Yeah, you know? And it's laziness, isn't it? It's I think we're going to touch on it. It's habits. So if your kid is used to just picking their phone up. I mean, I saw Redknapp talking about the other day, Jamie Redknapp, his son Bo. He said as soon as he gets the biggest thing that's ruining footballers is the phone. But that's just all kids. In fact, all sportsmen. He said he gets in the car and the first thing bang on their phone. And my kids are the same. And like I said, they've had a really sporty upbringing from the start, and they're still bad. And I'm constantly.
It's a battle.
We go down to West Whitby and we leave the phones there. We go for a long walk, and you can within half an hour to about 40 minutes, you start to see the kids change. Yeah. And then they talk more. They're not in their own little world. They're not so short or snappy. And then within a couple of hours, if you're just on the beach, no phones to the beach, bang, and they change. And then and also I think it's important that kids get bored. You need to get bored to go and do something. I remember as a kid going and throwing a tennis ball against the wall for hours in the summer holidays because no one was about. I'd be on my mum would go off and she'd go, right, you've got to look after your little brother. So we would just go and throw a ball against the wall for 2-3 hours. But that again gives you that hand-eye coordination, that movement, all those skills that you'll probably be good later on because you're bored. Yeah. Kids don't get bored anymore. When you get bored, you have to use your imagination and you end up being physical because it's natural. Now, you get a dopamine hit every 30 seconds off your phone. Yeah. So you don't get that dopamine hit you'd get from doing physical activity. You go for a run, you feel good afterwards. You sweat, you feel good afterwards. And you're getting that now from that. Straight
link to the brain, isn't it, really? And it's also that instant gratification because life isn't like that. Yeah. So you get used to receiving it on your phone. And if you, even as adults, if you think you're not addicted to your phone, try and lock your phone up for 48 hours. You'll be scratching for it, won't you? Yeah. It is really hard to kind of live without it and really manage it. And it's even harder for the kids now because they've just grown up around it. I mean, we had to go pay phone when you pounding. There's that code. But right, let's talk about what you do now. So you're 51 now.
Yep.
So what sort of, you touched on it earlier, so routines that you have now. I know that when you were training for sport, what was your eating like? So were you eating specifically for the fights, for the games? And
I'd say definitely for me, well, footballer wise, like again, I just enjoyed it and everything, and I used to turn up hungover, go out on a Friday night out clubbing.
Most people do, yeah.
Turn up. We used to play Saturday football over at the Conquest Club in Wood Lane, Isleworth. So for East Fulham. So I'd turn up there. I was probably 20 then, 21. Okay. Played for them for 7 years. And I remember hungover, got sunglasses on. I'd always had stuff to sell, clothes,
rock and roll life,
clothes, and I'd always be like in the boot of my car, like, does anyone want this, buying and selling stuff before the game, and then like. But I loved playing. I loved competing. I'd always give 100%, and the same. And then I played on Sunday football, pub football, and again like Saturday night. Sometimes we'd be rocking at 7 o'clock from uptown in London, coming in at 7, literally getting your stuff, getting your kit, and going and meeting at 9, kick off at 10. And
that was more the social side.
Still rushing off in that lot, still running around.
So what about the boxing then? What about like coming up to fights? I'm guessing you had to make weight.
Yeah, so for that it was different. I remember, and a lot of the reason I sort of fell out of it a little bit was like normally you wouldn't try and drink for 6 weeks before a fight because you'd had to make weight. So that's a long time, especially for me. I was going out all the time, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and sort of Thursday night. So always out drinking, and then so that would stop. And then we went to 2 or 3 shows. I went to one in Croydon, no show. One in Brighton, no show. So then, you've told your friends to come. You've not had a drink, you've missed the party or whatever. And then
by no show, you mean the opponent don't
don't show up. It gets cancelled the last minute, like the person's
which can be frustrating, especially if you've devoted 6 weeks to training. Yeah.
So that was an issue. But yes, I did. I must admit, when I was younger, again, when you get older, you get more focused. And I think, or you understand what's important more. And I think as I got older, I actually got more disciplined as I got older.
Okay. Because you knew you wanted it and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I just was a bit smarter. I mean, even at boxing, I remember when the boys at the clubs used to put black bean bags on and go for runs. I always used to think, yeah, but that's just water. You're going to drink and put that back on. So I never did that. And I think even back then I did a lot of sprints because in my head it's 2 minutes. So if I can sprint for 2 minutes, that's what the boxing's going to be like. So I always did that. I used to tire in the last round and I could never understand why, because I had a really low heart rate. My heart rate was like 40 beats, which is per minute. This was in my 20s, but it was. So I had a couple of things then. I'm like, oh, you've got a really low heart rate. That's a good sign of fitness and that. But I was always knackered in the third round. I could never work it out. And then I found out, and it was when I had the gum shield in, I was trouble breathing. I couldn't breathe through one nostril. Okay. So I've had 2 operations on my nostril. So basically I can only breathe 50%. And that was why. So my lungs were really healthy and fit because...
Just couldn't get the oxygen in.
Yeah. So it's almost like going up, doing high altitude training. I physically could. So my lungs become really, and my heart rate became really efficient because it wasn't getting enough oxygen. It was like being restricted. So it was really efficient with the oxygen it had. But obviously the benefit of that is when you come back down to normal altitude, you're really fit. The benefit, I just physically couldn't get enough oxygen up my nose. Okay. So like I said, 2 operations on that, but eventually that's sort of gone back now. Yeah. It's not really, it's just really narrow airways. Okay. So it's still not great now. But yeah, I noticed that. So it was good in some way.
So the tiredness in the last round was more, you wouldn't say diet related or fitness related.
No, I trained hard. And diet, again, just didn't know probably the right things. I'm not more understanding now. A lot better understanding now about how it all works. And I wish I'd known that. Yeah,
it's difficult. I think at that time, I'm guessing the only information would be from the people from the club. Because we didn't have internet. Yeah. We didn't have,
and boxing's very old school. It was. I remember I was always doing weights, and I was doing weights in the gym for aesthetic reasons, for going on holiday to the beach and wanting to look good. And I'm quite small. I was 11 stone. I'm 5'9", so I've never been big, and I was always conscious I wanted to be bigger. Okay. You know, so I think there's always been that driving thing. The same reason I started boxing is like to prove something to myself. And I think with the weights, I think everyone does really. It's all a bit insecurity.
Yeah, I get that.
And I think a lot of people, most of the people that go to a gym are slightly insecure. That's why they're in the gym.
Well, they feel vulnerable.
And that's why they're in the gym. So for me, you know, you're more intelligent professors than that. And they're not in the gym because they're almost too intelligent. They're not insecure. They're all right with it because they got a better brain. But so I would go to that, and then I remember a lot of people at boxing were like, "Oh, what are you going there? That'll slow you down. That's no good." Yeah. And then later on, now loads of people boxers have strength and conditioning coaches. Yeah. So loads of people are doing.
That's common a lot now, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. Yeah. The last 15 years, 15 years. So again, I was probably ahead of that already. I was already doing that. Okay. I was already doing weights 3 times a week, as well as my boxing, to make me stronger, not just for boxing, but just for my own sort of aesthetics reasons. But I could see the benefit. I was thinking, why would you not?
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
And the same, like I say, with the running, I was doing sprints rather than long. I still went out for long runs, but I didn't do the bin bag thing and all that where everyone else was, because in my head I was like, that doesn't make sense. It's just water. And now again, you don't see people doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the old techniques have fallen away.